Chapter 7, The World We Make. White. That's all there was. Not blinding, not empty, just endless white, stretching in every direction. It wasn't light. It wasn't space. It was potential, the kind of silence that feels like it's waiting for something to begin. I stood there, breathing slowly. No mist, no swamp, no core, no hunter, just me. The interface flickered faintly, struggling to exist. Code. Stability. 0%. Chrono energy. 1. Directive. Reconstruct. Reconstruct. The word pulsed on the display, faint but steady. The only thing left. I looked down at my hands. The shard was gone. My skin glowed faintly with blue veins, pulsing in rhythm with the light around me. I wasn't human anymore, not exactly. I was something else, something between memory and matter. A whisper drifted through the white. "You're not done." I turned. The woman stood a few feet away, her outline shimmering like heat waves. She looked calm, peaceful, almost radiant. "You said everything ended," I whispered. She smiled softly. "It did. Now you decide what begins." I frowned. "I don't know how." She stepped closer, her voice gentle. "You've rebuilt the world before. Every reset was a reconstruction. You just didn't realize it." I swallowed hard. "So what do I do?" She reached out, touching my chest, right over the faint glow beneath my skin. "Start with what you remember." The light around us pulsed. The white began to shift, faint shapes forming in the distance. Shadows. Outlines. Fragments of places I'd seen before, the swamp, the bunker, the facility, the core chamber. All broken, all incomplete. I whispered, "It's all still here." She nodded. "Pieces of every timeline, waiting for you to choose which ones survive." The interface flickered. Code. Reconstruction protocol. Active. Memory fragments. 4. Available worlds. Undefined. I stared at the display. 4 fragments, I said. The echo. The fracture. The hunter's mark. The core. She smiled faintly. Each one holds a truth. Each one holds a choice. The light shifted again, forming 4 glowing spheres around us, each pulsing with a different color. Violet, white, blue, gold. I stepped closer to the first, violet, swirling with mist. The swamp. The echo. The voice that remembered. I reached out, touching its surface. The world rippled. Suddenly, I was standing in the swamp again, but it wasn't broken. The mist was soft, the air warm, the water clear. The trees stood tall, glowing faintly with life. The interface flickered. Code. Fragment. The echo. Status. Restored. I exhaled slowly. The woman's voice echoed faintly through the air. "Every world you restore becomes part of the new one." I turned slowly, scanning the horizon. The swamp was alive again, not haunted, not fractured, but peaceful. The hum was gentle, rhythmic, like the world was breathing. I whispered, "It remembers." The light pulsed. The swamp dissolved. I was back in the white. The violet sphere dimmed, replaced by a faint glow of green, stable, alive. I turned to the next sphere, white, flickering with shards of broken glass. The fracture. The moment everything broke. I touched it. The world shifted again, the bunker, the terminal, the message. "You helped build the core. You caused the first reset." I stared at the terminal, the words glowing faintly. Then, new text appeared. Code. Directive. Forgive. I blinked. Forgive? The woman's voice drifted through the air. "You can't rebuild a world you still blame." I closed my eyes. "I didn't mean to break it." "Then stop punishing yourself for trying to fix it." The terminal flickered. The words vanished. The bunker dissolved. The white returned. The second sphere dimmed, replaced by a faint glow of silver, calm, balanced. I turned to the third, blue, pulsing like a heartbeat. The hunter's mark. I touched it. The world shifted again, the swamp, the hunter, the mark glowing on my chest. The hunter stood before me, silent, waiting. I whispered, "You were never my enemy." It tilted its head. "No." The mark on my chest flared, then faded. The hunter stepped back, its body dissolving into light. The interface flickered. Code. Fragment. The hunter's mark. Status. Reconciled. The world dissolved. The white returned. The third sphere dimmed, replaced by a faint glow of blue, steady, protective. I turned to the last, gold, pulsing softly. The core. I hesitated. Then I touched it. The world shifted, the chamber, the light, the explosion. But this time, the core wasn't broken. It hovered in the center, whole, glowing softly. I stepped closer. The projection appeared, me, but calm, peaceful. You understand now, it said. I nodded. I do. Then rebuild it right. I reached out, touching the core. Light surged outward, flooding the chamber. The interface flickered violently. Code. All fragments restored. Reconstruction complete. Stability. 100%. The world dissolved. The white faded. And I stood in a new world. The sky was clear. The air was warm. The ground was solid. The mist was gone. The woman stood beside me, smiling. You did it. I looked around. It's not the same. She shook her head. It's better. I exhaled slowly. Then what now? She smiled faintly. Now you live. The air was warm. Real air, not the sterile hum of the core, not the damp heaviness of the swamp. It smelled faintly of rain and earth, like the world had just been washed clean. I stood on a ridge overlooking a valley that shouldn't exist. The ground shimmered faintly with blue veins, pulsing like lifeblood beneath the soil. The sky above was streaked with gold and white, clouds drifting lazily across a horizon that felt infinite. The interface flickered softly. Code. Stability. 100%. Chrono energy. 100. Directive. Observe. Observe. For the first time, there was no warning. No countdown. No threat. Just silence. I took a slow breath, letting the air fill my lungs. It felt heavier than I remembered, like the world itself was breathing with me. The woman stood beside me, her hair moving gently in the wind. It's beautiful, she said softly. I nodded. It's alive. She smiled faintly. It always was. You just couldn't see it through the fractures. I looked down at my hands. The faint blue glow beneath my skin had dimmed, replaced by a soft, natural warmth. I felt human again, or something close to it. What happens now? I asked. She turned toward the valley. Now you decide what kind of world this becomes. I frowned. I thought it rebuilt itself. She shook her head. No, it rebuilds around you. The valley shimmered faintly, the light bending and shifting. Shapes began to form, trees, rivers, mountains, all emerging from the white beneath the surface. But they weren't random. They were familiar. Memories. The swamp. The bunker. The facility. The core chamber. All reappearing, but changed, healed, whole, peaceful. I whispered, it's remembering me. She nodded. And you're remembering it. The interface flickered. Code. Reconstruction phase. Adaptive. Memory integration. Active. I watched as the world continued to form. The swamp now lush and vibrant. The bunker transformed into a small outpost surrounded by green fields. The facility rebuilt as a tower of light rising from the valley floor. It was all connected. Every place I'd broken. Every moment I'd survived. Every choice I'd made. All woven together into something new. I turned to her. Why me? She smiled softly. Because you were the only one who kept trying. I looked away. I didn't fix anything. You did, she said gently. You fixed yourself. The wind shifted, carrying faint whispers through the valley, voices, laughter, echoes of life. I saw figures moving in the distance, human silhouettes, faint but real. I blinked. People? She nodded. Every timeline you saved left traces. Every life you touched left echoes. They're rebuilding too. I stared at the valley, watching the figures move among the trees. They're alive. They're free. I exhaled slowly. The interface flickered again. Code. Directive updated. Guide. Guide. I turned to her. What does that mean? She smiled faintly. You're not the core anymore. You're the anchor. The world needs direction, not control. I frowned. I don't know how to lead. She stepped closer, her voice soft. You don't lead. You remind. Remind? That the world can heal. The valley shimmered again, the light pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. The figures in the distance turned toward me, not in worship, not in fear, but in recognition. They saw me, and I saw them. The woman's voice was barely a whisper. You gave them back time. I swallowed hard. And what about you? She smiled sadly. I was never meant to stay. My chest tightened. No. She reached out, touching my face. You don't need me anymore. I do. She shook her head gently. You have the world now. The light around her began to fade, her outline dissolving into the air. Wait. She smiled one last time. Remember me when you build. Then she was gone. The valley fell silent. The wind carried her voice away. I stood there, staring at the horizon, the world pulsing softly beneath my feet. The interface flickered. Code. Stability. 100%. Directive. Continue reconstruction. I took a deep breath. All right, I whispered. Let's make something worth remembering. The valley shimmered, the light brightened, and the world began to grow. The valley didn't stop growing. It breathed. Every second, new shapes formed along the horizon, hills rising like slow waves, rivers carving themselves through soft earth, forests unfurling from the ground like time-lapse footage of life returning after a storm. I stood at the center of it all, feeling the pulse of the world beneath my feet. It wasn't chaotic. It wasn't fractured. It was responsive, like the world was listening. The interface flickered softly. Code. Stability. 100%. Chrono energy. 100. Directive. Continue reconstruction. I took a step forward. The ground responded, glowing faintly beneath my boots, sending ripples of light across the valley floor. The trees closest to me straightened, their leaves shimmering with a soft blue tint. The air warmed, carrying the scent of pine and rain. It felt alive. It felt aware. A faint rustle echoed behind me. I turned. A figure stood at the edge of the clearing, human, solid, real. Not an echo, not a memory, a person, a young man, maybe 20, wearing simple clothes woven from plant fibers. His eyes glowed faintly with the same blue veins that pulsed beneath the soil. He stared at me with a mixture of awe and confusion. You're him, he said quietly. I swallowed. Who? The one who woke the world. I exhaled slowly. I didn't wake it. I just stopped breaking it. He stepped closer, cautious but curious. We felt it, he said. All of us. The moment everything changed. The moment the resets stopped. I frowned. How many of you are there? He looked toward the valley. More every hour. The echoes are becoming real. The fragments are becoming people. I followed his gaze. Dozens of figures moved through the valley, men, women, children, all emerging from the mist like memories taking shape. Some carried tools. Some carried baskets. Some simply walked, touching the trees, the grass, the water, as if seeing the world for the first time. I whispered, "They're rebuilding." He nodded. "They're waiting for you." I turned back to him. "Why me?" He smiled faintly. "Because you're the only one who remembers everything." The wind shifted, carrying faint laughter from the valley below. The sound hit me harder than any explosion, any reset, any fracture. It was real. It was alive. It was hope. The interface flickered. Code. Directive updated. Lead. Pinched my jaw. I'm not a leader. The young man tilted his head. You don't have to be. You just have to show us how to live without fear. I looked down at my hands, steady, warm, human. I don't know if I can. He smiled. You already did. A soft glow appeared in the distance. A pillar of light rising from the ground, swirling with gold and blue. The young man pointed toward it. That's where the others are gathering. They want to meet you. I hesitated. What if I fail again? He stepped closer, placing a hand on my shoulder. Then we fail together. But we won't reset. We won't break. We'll learn. I exhaled slowly. The world pulsed beneath my feet. The sky brightened. The valley shimmered. I nodded. All right, let's go. We walked down the ridge together, the ground glowing softly with each step. As we approached the pillar of light, more people emerged from the trees, faces filled with curiosity, hope, fear, wonder. They formed a circle around me, silent, waiting. The pillar of light dimmed, revealing a platform of smooth stone. Symbols glowed along its surface, not warnings, not directives, but possibilities. The young man stepped back. This is yours. I stepped onto the platform. The world responded, the sky shifting, the ground humming, the air thickening with energy. The interface flickered one final time. Code. Reconstruction complete. Stability. 100%. Chrono energy. 100. Directive. Live. I stared at the display. Live. Not rebuild. Not survive. Not fix. Live. I looked out at the people gathered around me. The first citizens of a world that had died 1,000 times and finally found its way back. I took a deep breath. My name is Jax, I said, my voice steady. And this time, we build something better. The valley erupted in light. The world answered. And for the first time since the beginning, I felt something I thought I'd lost forever. A future.